In this video, we're going to build the spinner or loader that you would see once you submit a form. So if we look for trips going from Washington to Toronto, for example, once we click on the search button, first you will see a spinner appearing there, and then we can see our results there. Okay, so the way it works is as following. We know that we've got an AJAX call that we send to the server once we submit the form using JavaScript. So while we are waiting for a response from the server, the spinner is going to stay right there. So once we submit the form, the spinner will appear, and then once we get a response, the spinner is going to disappear, and then we can see our results there. So let's try something where we've got trips in the table. So if I click on the search button, I'm going to see the spinner, and then once I get a response from the server, then I can see my trips appearing there. And we can also see some animation here, so the trips actually, they are fading in. Okay, so first of all, we're going to build the spinner, which is an HTML element with a picture inside. And then we're going to add some styling to it to place it in the middle of the page. And then we're going to write some JavaScript code which will show the spinner once we submit the form, and will hide it once we get a response from the server. So to get the spinner or loader, you can just go to Google and type loader generator. There's a good website for this, ajaxload.info. So you can generate a loader and download it. Okay, so once you download the one you like, okay, and I've got it on my desktop here, then you can go to your file FTP and upload the file to your server. So here's my file, so I'm going to upload it. Okay, and now I can use the file. It's right there. Okay, so I'm going to go to my index.php file, and right at the end of the body element, I'm going to create a new element. And I'm going to call it spinner. All right, so let's create a div and give it an ID, spinner. And inside the div, I'm going to create a picture, an image. So let's give it a source attribute. So I'm going to use this file, ajaxloader.gif. Okay. And let's set some dimensions to the image. So I'm going to go for a width of 64 and a height of 64 as well. Okay. Now let's add some styling to our image. So let's go to the styling file. So let's open the file. Okay, so I'm going to select the spinner using its ID. Okay, so first of all, we want the spinner to be hidden by default. So we can use the display property and set it to none. Okay. Also, to make sure that the spinner is placed in the middle of the page like that. Okay, I'm going to go for a fixed position, and I'm going to set all the attributes top, left, bottom, and right to 0. Okay, so position fixed, and then all the attributes top 0, bottom 0, left 0, and right 0. All right, now let's give it a height of 85 pixels, for instance. Okay, and to center it, I'm going to use both the margin property and the text align property. So just remember that the image is inside the div that we are actually styling. So I'm going to set the margin property to auto and the text align to center. Okay, so for now, I'm going to comment the display property so that we can see our div. Okay, so let's save and refresh the page. Okay, so now we can see our spinner in the middle of the page, all right? And it looks all right. So now let's go back to our display property, and now we can't see it. All right, so now using jQuery, when we submit the form, we're going to show the spinner, and then when we get a response from the server, we're going to hide the spinner. Okay. So before I continue, we're going to use the same spinner inside the trips page. Okay, so you can see that the spinner appeared briefly before the trips showed up. So we're going to use the same styling. So let's just copy the HTML content. Before going ahead, I'm just going to add some text after a line break saying loading, like that. Okay, so let's copy this HTML element to the trips page. Okay, so that's our spinner. Okay, so let's save and let's go back to the index.php file. So now we said that we're going to go to the JavaScript file, and when we submit the form, that's the search form. So once we submit it, we're going to show the spinner. Okay, so we're going to show the spinner right there. And then once we get a response from the server using Ajax, then we're going to hide the spinner right there. We will also hide it if you go an error before showing the result, the error message. Okay, so to show the spinner, we're going to select it using its ID, which is spinner, and then we're going to use the show method. To hide it, we're going to use the hide method. Okay, so let's save and try this. So if I just click without having any elements, then we can see the error message after the spinner appears for a while. Okay, so if we try something, we've got records, then you'll see the spinner appearing, okay, before the trips show up. Okay, now let's add some animation to our results. So you can see that the trips, they are actually fading in. Well, let's have a look at inside the final website. Okay, so they're actually fading in, and if you got them already there, then they will disappear, they will fade out, and then they will fade in. Okay, so to do this, once we show the spinner, we're going to fade out the trips if they are there. So I'm going to hide results. So let's select the div containing our trips or error message. So the ID of that div was search results. and let's use the fade out method. And now once we get the response from the server, we're going to show the results after hiding the spinner. And we're going to use the fade in method. Okay. Okay, so we will change the HTML content first and then show the results. Like this. All right, so let's save and try our code. Okay. Well, actually we don't need to hide the results. Let's try again. Okay, we'll need to hide them actually, because if you use the fade in method while the element is already there, then it's not going to work. So let's try again. Okay, so they disappear first and then they fade in. Alright, now let's move to the other Ajax calls. Let's go to the sign up process. So if I log out and then try the sign up form like that, then you can see a nice animation where this error message is sliding down. It's going to be the same process. Okay, so you can see the spinner appearing there. Okay, so let's try this. So I'm going to go to the sign up submission code. So right at the top, once we submit the form, we want to hide the spinner. So I'm going to copy that. And also we're going to hide the error message. So we're showing the spinner and we're hiding the error message. So the ID of the error message is this. So instead of fade out, we're gonna use just a hide method here because we just want to hide it. Okay. And then once we get a response, we need to hide the spinner. And then once we fill the HTML contents of the error message or the success message, then we're going to show the message using a nice slide down animation. So to do that, we're gonna use the slide down method. Okay. And then we're gonna do the same there. So if you've got an error, we're going to hide the spinner. Then we're going to fill the HTML content and show the elements using the slide down animation. So let's save and try our code. So if we try the sign up. Okay, so we can't see the spinner. Okay, so the reason why is because the spinner is actually hidden behind the module. To fix this, we can add a really big Z index to the spinner so that it shows on top of the module. So let's go back to the styling file and add a Z index. So let's go for something really big, like 1100. So now if we save the page and try again, you can see the spinner appearing before the slide down animation. Okay. All right, so now let's move to the login process and do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to copy this bit. So once we submit the form, we show the spinner and we hide the error or success message. So I'm going to change the ID of the message. And then once we get the response, in that case, before showing the login message, we're going to hide the spinner. Okay. And the same thing applies there. And then once we change the HTML contents of the message, we're going to show the message using a slide down animation. Okay. So now, well, let's try this. Make sure that it works. Okay, perfect. All right, so now let's move to the forgot password process. So I'm going to do exactly the same. So I'm just going to copy paste the same code for now. And change the ID of the message. And then if you've got a success, we're going to hide the spinner. Same thing there. And if you want to show the message, once we change the HTML content, we're going to slide the message down. Okay, so it's saved. Now we're going to do the same thing in the trips page. So let's see. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is when we load the page, okay, we want to show the spinner and then show the trips, just like this. Okay, so you can see that the spinner appears and then the trips actually fade in. So we're going to be looking at the getTrips function. So let's look for that function. So we defined it right there. Okay. We will continue changes to this function in the next video.